Hey, Dennis O'Brien back again with another great show. I've had three in a row now without Susan Johnson. And now I've got a fourth, and she's not here yet, but she might be stopping by. I know she wants to stop by to see her. Oh, I see her coming. She's on her way. She couldn't resist coming in to see her old friend, Ray Axelrod from the Connecticut Eastern Railroad Museum.
Hi out there. It's train time again. We're doing Railroad Day on the Saturday the 31st. Love to see everybody down there. So that should be about, 3,000 people?
He starts right in. Look at him. He didn't know. He doesn't have to wait for me to ask him a question or anything. That's because he was trained well. You know, Ray goes back a long way with Susan and I. Right, Ray? You've known us for, decades, I'd say.
Yeah, let's call it that, because otherwise we'll give out our ages.
Well, everybody knows how old I am, that I'm 96, but, you know...
At least 106.
No, 11 to 11.
11 to 11. Oh.
There you go.
All right, we're adjusting the chairs now. We're moving Ray over to his proper position in the middle, on the hot seat.
Yeah.
On the hot seat. Anyway, Ray worked with... Susan and I both worked for Connecticut Legal Services. Uh-huh. And Ray was a student volunteer, right?
Yeah.
You were a UConn student?
No, I was already graduated.
You were already graduated, but you were a volunteer.
Yep. For about
and working with the Medicare unit, right?
Yep.
And Susan was also with the Medicare unit. Were you at that time, Sue?
I was. I remember when you said you were going to Clark University.
Yep.
Is that where you went, Clark?
I did, and I done.
Yeah, you did.
You went to Clark in Worcester?
Yep.
Must be a cool place.
Now they've taken over half of Main South. Before they were just behind Main Street. Now they own half the frontage on Main Street.
Well, those private schools. Anyway, that's one of many colleges in Worcester. Worcester's
11. The consortium was 11 colleges.
Wow.
They're having a problem now in Worcester, aren't they, with college expansions?
WPI. I was looking at the Spectrum channel and... they're trying to stop WPI from buying two of the hotels downtown.
Yeah, so it's going to ruin their economy there because the hotels pay taxes and the universities
Well,
don't.
Worcester is better. Worcester is bigger than
off.
any town in Connecticut, population-wise.
Well, I believe isn't it the second biggest city in New England?
And it's the second biggest city in Massachusetts and in New England. That's right. And it's I used to go up there once in a while to see a basketball game up on Mount St. James. Holy Cross.
Holy Cross was
up
the mountain from College Square.
That's right. Holy Cross at one time was a basketball powerhouse. In fact, they were national champions in the late 40s. Anyway, Ray's here. Let's talk about the here and the now. Ray's here. Ray, you have been with the Connecticut Eastern Railroad Museum since its inception?
Just about.
Almost.
I was watching the inception in different forms in the late 80s there. I really didn't join till about 92 when we actually formed the chapter, because it began with the Friends of the Valley Railroad, etc. Where they were going to form a museum that looked at Palmer, looked at Danbury, ended up in Thomaston.
Did you know that Susan Johnson played a role in that? Susan?
Yes, I did. What happened is but now the person who's the engineer that was helping with us and taught at UConn.
Art Hall.
Yes, I think it was Art Hall. Anyway, he came to the council. There were the Board of Selectmen back then. I was on the Board of Selectmen from 89 to 92. And they suggested that they, have this railroad museum where people would come and pitch in, and we have the museum, and they'd pitch in and do the work, and all volunteers, and so I made a motion to give them the $1,500 to start it all, and that's when we were able to start that.
I didn't know that one, but sounds good.
So you better write that one down, Ray.
So so we got that $1,500, and sure enough, lo and behold, the work that was promised by the engineer who came before us, Mr. Hall, and he's actually been on the show with us as well when we did the Wyndham Works show a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think that it may also have been Adrian. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, Adrian, we've had Adrian on the show.
Yeah, I think it was Adrian that came before us. Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, And just a few years later, there was so much work being done. So many people have a passion for the railroad system and the history of the railroad. And it was wonderful to see the amazing work that's done. And now today, little ones and older people all love to go down to the Railroad Museum because of the amazing work, the volunteer work that's been done. And it's just, it's quite stunning, all the things you have there.
We have the Garden Railroad, we have the Kidscape, we have the Mary Lou locomotive. It's actually the little locomotive that was out by, what's the store, the something and something garden barn, the gift shop on 14.
On Route 14?
Would it be in Scotland?
Oh.
No, in Willimantic.
Willimantic.
Right at the top.
I remember that. Yeah.
Well, they had those toy train things.
Bergeron's? I remember the gift shop.
Anyway,
thank you.
But they had the toy train, a couple of cars and stuff, and
yeah.
that actually was from kits that were sold or put out
that's great.
back in the 50s.
Yeah.
But it needed work, and Mary Lou DeVivo donated major money to rebuild that, and then we got further money to rebuild a few more cars that go along with it, so the kids can crawl on them and stomp on them and stuff like that.
That's what kids do. Anyway,
Gotta make
it
noise.
all started, folks, with $1,500
Yes.
from the big spending Board of Selectmen of the town of Wyndham.
Yeah, and
They didn't become big spenders until I got on the town council.
They also donated
spend
money
liberal.
for a number of years. There was a little bit of money in the budget for the Rail Museum as well.
From the town of
You know,
Wyndham.
there's been help, and there's been help from engineering grants and fire department and different things over the years. I
Who
mean,
takes care of all that, of recording all that? They must have a treasurer or somebody who keeps
we
the
got
books.
treasurer and historian, and it's all pretty well noted.
But you, Ray, are the spokesperson.
Well,
You're one of several.
One
but,
of the spokespeople.
But whenever we do a show, sometimes we've had people on with you, but you were always there. You're always here.
I want to monopolize your waves a little.
Well,
You wanna
we're
be
glad you're
like-
here.
You want to be like me.
It's a little ego trip.
You want to be like Wayno. Do it every day, 5 days a week. Anyway, we're happy to have you here on this is pretty much your annual trip to WILI.
Yep,
Well,
my annual
for-
pilgrimage.
On Let's Talk About It, you're also going to be, of course, on the Big Guys show next week.
Yep, next Tuesday morning.
Next Tuesday, he will appear with Wayno. And Wayno will probably give you, 20 minutes maybe?
20 to 40, yeah.
Yeah, today we
So,
give you
always
almost a whole hour.
Yeah.
Not
Well,
quite.
I thank you, and the museum thanks you.
Well,
Well,
we've
we
been
thank the
there many
museum.
times. I have many great photographs of Susan and I enjoying ourselves at the museum. One thing we do whenever we go to the Railroad Day is that we run into people we haven't seen in a while. Because a lot of people go.
Oh yeah, I do. You know, I vend some wares or Railroadiana as it's called, but I mean I get to visit with a lot of people going down there that day, and there are a lot of people who have come maybe they don't come every year, but they're there every second year,
Right.
And it's really nice to see people coming back.
Usually when I
wonderful,
see you
yeah.
there, though, you're always on your way to be doing something. And I never get a chance to talk to you there. That's another reason why we have you on the show. Because unless we're, here in the studio with you, Susan is waving at me. She wants to say something.
Well, go ahead, finish your sentence.
I just, we don't get a chance to talk to you.
You're one of the few that didn't say, Raymond, be quiet for a while.
No, I don't do that.
no.
I mean, I'm afraid if I do that,
I'm kidding. That
somebody
there-
will say that to me. And that is, and somebody does every once in a while, somebody actually who's in the room. So anyway.
I just wanted to say, I'm sorry I came in a little bit late, and you might have already said this, but do you have entertainment? Because sometimes you have people...
I don't know what the entertainment is.
Oh.
I know Duke's going up there. I know we have a couple of other bands coming.
Okay.
I'm not sure of the names.
Duke York.
You'll have to come on down and see.
All right.
Lots of train songs, food, souvenirs, train rides, demonstrations.
I love
Lots of fun.
I love all the things that you put on there, and the history and the chatter about the history and that sort of thing, and going through the equipment that you have there and the model trains that have been renovated. And tell us a little bit about those things that you've renovated and that sort of thing, because I'm fascinated with what you've done there.
Everybody knows Bev York,
Yes.
and some people might know Duke.
Right.
Bev claims they're married. But Duke got lost down at the Railroad Museum for like 2,000 hours worth of volunteer time renovating one of the CV cabooses we have.
Uh-huh.
So, I guess that's the ultimate guy shed. But anyway, that's one story.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I love that.
And
I hadn't heard
2,000
that. I know
hours.
Duke is active
over
down
2,000 hours, and then he was like begging other members, come and, do 15, 20 minutes of sanding. My hands are wearing out here. But yeah, he did a wonderful job. And we also have the Rutland caboose is another piece that was renovated and donated by someone from the Talcott family. And then we have the FL9, which was donated by the state of Connecticut, and that's actually the dual mode power that used to go between New Haven and Grand Central. And we have many other pieces that we're working on all the time. We're trying to do a lot of track work now. We need Susan to come up with a grant. I don't know from where, but to put in new ties and work on the rail.
Yeah,
I figured I'd stick that to lobby.
That's why he was so happy when you walked in, Susan.
Well, I'm glad to help.
Right.
You gotta have we can work certainly with Jordan Lumpkins. He's our new grant writer, and this is something that's state, but it's also local. So preserving the history here is very, very important, and I'm hoping that the preservation of the history of railroads will maybe give us a little bit of an idea of maybe going back to the future, so we can have rail systems all the way through
right
Connecticut.
Here on my notes to Dennis,
yes.
I put future rail service.
Yeah, we talk about that every time you're on, and Susan and I both love trains.
Yeah, well, Amtrak did do a study about a college corridor train, which
Yes.
would break off like at Northfield and come off down New England Central to New London. It would serve like potentially 11 colleges within 20 miles. Or
60,000 students.
Yeah, because you
I
have
remember that.
UMass, UConn, Eastern, the New London colleges.
Connecticut
and
College.
yeah.
Yeah, it would be wonderful. And that was, and I did mention this, Congressman Joe Courtney hosted an event at Eastern Connecticut State University, not this last Thursday, but the Thursday before. And I went around and talked to all the federal organizations. And I did talk to the Federal Department of Transportation and our State Department of Transportation about doing more rail. And that was something that I did mention. So, that's maybe
Still in the back burner somewhere.
right. But it would be good if you're looking at trying to save energy and the atmosphere and being more green. The rail is the way to go.
There was also that ancient proposal we did when we had the Transit Alliance of Eastern Connecticut, which was to get the gambling train from Wellington down to the museum. Not to the casino, not to the museum.
Yeah, I was wondering.
We could make make the museum a mini, mini casino right there.
Get their, Oh, that's an idea. That might get the rail going.
That would.
There was actually an article by the infamous Chris Powell, who writes in the Chronicle. I disagree with about 95% of what he says, but one thing he said was, next thing you know, I guess somebody has been encouraging the Native American tribes from Western Connecticut, like the Golden Hill Pogussets, who are not, I don't think they're federally recognized.
Not yet.
And I know because our Connecticut Legal Services actually represented them for a while. And I remember I pinch hit one time as a supervisor in working with Moonface Bear, who was a member of the Golden Hill Pogusset tribe, who was located not in Bridgeport, which is where Golden Hill is, but I think he was in Middletown or maybe even closer to Wyndham. And I went to see him, and he was wearing bandoleros. And I was quite blown away by that. I hadn't seen bullets since I was in the U.S. Army in the 60s, when I was conscripted into the Army during the early part of the Vietnam War. Anyway, Chris Powell, I digressed a little bit there. Chris Powell suggested that maybe if they're going to give more potential for casinos in that area of the state, maybe they should open it up to people who are not necessarily indigenous. And there you go. There you go. There's, possibility.
Who knows?
You never know.
I was thinking a sub location. Anyway.
No, I was thinking, I thought you were talking about a location right at the museum.
Yeah. Take a tour.
Take a tour. Play the slots.
But it would be aligned with Mohegan Sun to keep people happy.
Well, that would be the way to get good
mess with
funding. Mohegan Sun would. So maybe that's what we got to do. Spend some time down there with the people who run it.
Anyway, the museum seems to be. Every time I go there, there's something new. There's always something that is there. Whether it might be a vehicle that I've seen before, but it's improved. There's always progress being made.
We're always trying to do work. We just did the roof on the Nan Tower, which was the control tower for the Niantic River Bridge.
Wow!
That we got donated from Amtrak. We also do repainting of the buildings. We're looking at, I guess it's the Freight House that we're looking at putting a more authentic roof on.
The building that I've always been fascinated with is, what I'm going to say, the Roundhouse.
Yeah.
And the Roundhouse is amazing, and why don't you tell our listeners, because not everybody is as knowledgeable as you are.
The Roundhouse,
and not even as I am.
The Roundhouse is simply a garage for locomotives, but it's an important thing, especially in the days of steam. It was a place where they could bring the locomotives in, keep them nestled, like the railroad's children. But in the days of steam, you would bring in a steam locomotive, do any minor work you had to do on it, as well as bring the fire down to a low level. And then at about 4 a.m, before the crews came in for the yard switcher or anything like that, they would build up the pressure and the fire in the locomotive, fill the coal and water, and get things ready for the daytime crew work. So it was also a place to do light repairs, store the locomotives, as well as service them and keep them warm on cold winter nights.
Roundhouse, though, it goes around.
Yeah. We have a 6-stall roundhouse, which is a replica of the roundhouse that was built there in 1898. But actually down at New Haven, west of the station, there were 2 roundhouses that were full circles with 48 stalls in them, and the 49th stall was left open so they could bring a track right in to the turntable in the center, and the turntable actually could let you line up the locomotive with which stall you wanted to put it in.
And that also can line up the locomotive with, getting out of there.
Yeah, and also turn the locomotive
with the track
to go, to reverse direction. Actually, right now I got here a little bit early, and I see the city is working on that parking thing right down by where the old Agway, which is actually a former American Thread warehouse. If you look on the geological survey or, the topo map on the web, in the wintertime, you can actually see the contrast where the turntable there was. Because New York and New England came in from the northeast on the airline. Hartford, Providence, and Fishkill was east-west. New England Central, or formerly the CV, was north-south down to New London and up to Montreal. And the airline came in from New Haven. So there are actually 3 or 4 different railroads, if you go back in the 1860s, 70s era, that eventually everything became the New Haven or the CV.
You mentioned Montreal. Montrealer. What is the Montrealer?
We had the Montrealer from 89 to 95.
This is
but
what I thought.
It was only a stop from 81 or 91 to 95.
It didn't last, but I can remember.
Because they rerouted.
I can remember Susan talked about being on the Board of Selectmen from 89 to 92. That was your first tour of duty on the Board of Selectmen. You went on later on for another 2-year term before you went to law school.
Yeah. No, I went on 89.
Yeah.
And that's 2 years to.
4. You went on. You were on for 4 years.
I guess it was 93.
3.
Because I started law school in 92.
But it was in 89 when 91 when Walter Polakevich ran for first selectman.
Right.
and I was his campaign
92,
manager.
93, yeah.
And I remember the night the Montrealer came in.
We had 1,200 people.
I was there. We shut down headquarters. We were working every night, making phone calls. We used to be very
You
effective.
probably weren't calling that late because it was 1 o'clock or so by
Yes.
the time.
Well, we waited.
I
We waited, but we left earlier than we normally would, and we were waiting with everybody else for it to come in. And the crowd just kept building and building and building.
Yeah, it
You say
was amazing.
1,200?
The people on the
It was
people on the
delightful.
train were like, "Are all those people getting on the train?" They weren't, but
No,
it actually, they were like
But-
gawking out the window at the crowd.
but it was delightful. The train was headed
North
north.
Montreal,
Okay, it was headed to Montreal. It wasn't coming from.
right? Because
Okay,
the southbound
so
would
it
be
came
like
from-
2 hours later, about 3:30 in the
Came
morning.
from where? New London?
No, well, what we saw came from Washington, New Haven, New London, up to Northfield, then got back on the
Okay,
river line
okay,
and on
okay,
to Montreal.
Okay. But it did come from New London. But
Yes.
New London was not the first.
You know why they changed the route?
Well, there's a donor to a certain presidential party, but we won't go into that. Tim Mellon of the Pittsburgh banking family bought the B&M, the Maine Central, and the D&H. And then basically, well, as Dave Ramsey would put it, went on a great campaign of customer disservice. And Amtrak was paying $1 million a year for maintenance between Springfield and Northfield. Well, actually up to Windsor, because it was actually a B&M line at the time. B&M let the maintenance go from 45, 50 miles an hour to about 5 or 10 in the mud. And finally, in 87, Amtrak pulled the train. And in the ensuing 2 years, basically, Amtrak used its eminent domain clause, turned the rail over to Central Vermont from Northfield up to Windsor, Vermont. It stayed under B&M control below that, so that's why they diverted off onto Stevie completely. Amtrak provided the maintenance money, and the train came back on through Willimantic, Palmer, and up to Northfield, rejoining the original line there. And that was why the reroute. In late 94 and 95, Amtrak put in a switch at Palmer at the west end of the yard, and that's when the train went back on the Hartford-Springfield routing.
All right. Well,
This is the kind of information you're not going to get on the Wayne Norman show.
Well,
Yep, you may not want it all, but
You may not want
oh,
it
I
all,
love
but you
this
know what?
information. This is great.
But
And the
we are-
other thing that
Susan
I
and
was
I are-
going to try
are
and
lovers
say,
of detail.
I was going to try and say something.
I'm glad I didn't get caught on that one.
But I was just going to say, one of the things that I hear today about, getting rail, that we need to do more freight rail in order to have it pay for the passenger rail. And I'm wondering, is that still the situation we're in?
Probably. It sure helps a lot. If nothing else, where there is freight, it's going to pick up a major part of the cost. There's different funding for freight lines and stuff, as well as a maintenance quotient.
Okay, that's excellent information. So what we need is more manufacturing, which is one of the things that is being suggested now and being done throughout the country. If we had more manufacturing, we'd have more freight.
Yep, it would be great.
That is being suggested and is being worked on, and to some extent it is moving in the right direction, but it is, it's a process.
Takes time, yes.
Okay, it's time for our break. We're getting the sign from, in no uncertain terms, from Matt Rupar, our wonderful producer. And it's time to take a break and listen to our wonderful sponsors. And we want to remind you that we're sponsored by, generally, this show is brought to us in general, by the Gates.
GMC.
Gates
in
GMC.
Columbia Ford.
And Columbia Ford. And the
Capital
Gates, Great Gates and Denny Gates. And we really appreciate them. They sponsored us for almost 25 years.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Susan Johnson. I'm here with my co-host, Dennis O'Brien, and our very special guest this evening, Ray Axelrod, who does so much wonderful work with our Railroad Museum right here in town. And we're just about to talk about when they're having their event at the Railroad Museum. But first, how do you get to the Railroad Museum?
Well, that's a conundrum, but the simplest answer If you go down from Main Street, as soon as your right tire leaves the tracks, hang a right, go up the dirt road, which is partly paved, that goes between the rail and the river. That's the problem. If you try to trust the GPS, you're going to land in the cemetery looking at the museum, but not in the museum. And no way to cross the tracks unless you've got power flight like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang on your car.
There you have it.
All right.
What is the street? What is the name of the street that you turn onto to get to the museum?
Museum driveway.
No.
Oh,
Before that.
Bridge Street.
That's Bridge Street. It's
Yes.
not Mountain Street.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you don't get to Mountain Street till you get to the mountain.
Yeah, well, that's true. And there you get Hosmer Mountain Soda.
Yeah, I just came from there.
I'm here with
And
a
Go,
couple,
Hosmer.
and a hell of a hill that'll give you a heart attack if you try to run up
I'm
it.
here with a
Yeah.
couple of comedians, but it is good. It's all good.
Yeah.
Anyway, you know, you just take out. Well, if you're heading west on Main Street, you take a left onto Bridge,
Yeah,
and then
as
you're almost there.
find
Once
the
you turn.
sign in the conglomeration of stuff by the railroad crossing and just head up there. You'll find us.
I saw there you have a sign out there now about your event and the time frames. Is that right?
That is right. We
Yeah,
have
see?
two signs, one
Oh.
for southbound or northbound, one for southbound.
On Bridge Street. So yeah.
Right by the
So,
crossing.
so you just take a look over there, depending on which way you're going, and you know, you can see
You'll
the
find
sign
us. You have
going
to
either way.
work with the dirt road along the rail trail, and it's basically about 3/4 of a mile up to where
Yeah,
parking
it's not
is.
that close.
No, it's
quite a ways
equal.
down.
It's equal with Stop and Shop and Burger King area.
Wow.
Or just Bridge Street Plaza, just behind the Bridge Street Plaza. If you're facing the Bridge Street Plaza, it's on the right hand side because the left hand side of the Bridge Street Plaza is the river.
Yep. And if you're northbound, it'll be on the left side.
There you go.
I just had to put that one in.
I'm almost
You-
confused now.
That was the idea.
But I know that most of the people, a lot of the people that go there are people who have been there before, because anybody who goes to Railroad Day at the Connecticut Eastern Railroad Museum enjoys it and wants to come back.
Oh yeah.
I'm bad. I'm here to fluster Dennis today. But other than that, I want to give some straight information. Yeah, and if you get down the driveway, we'll have food, we'll have music. We're doing short train rides around the museum area and partway down. We're trying to work more on those rails down toward Bridge Street. And we'll also have maintenance demos and talk about the museum. We have push car rides available, and we'll demonstrate the turntable a couple of times during the day. Lots to see and do. Come on down.
I don't know if I'm in good enough shape to do the push car anymore. I'll have to try it at some point.
Do your arms move?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you stand up?
Yeah.
You can do it.
Sometimes with difficult, yeah.
Go slow.
I've done the push car many times, but I haven't done it for 2 or 3 years. You know why? Because when I've been there, there's been so many people there and so many kids that want to use the push car that I would have had to stand in line. For me, standing in line is not a good use of my time. So I moved on to something else. Probably ran into people that I wanted to talk to that I hadn't talked to in a while.
Well,
which is one of the great things about going to the Railroad Day. You run into people that you haven't seen in a while, sort of like Third Thursday.
Dennis is a politician. He talks.
He does talk, doesn't
Well, you know,
It's a good thing.
that's why they have me
Yes.
on the show 25 years now.
That's right.
Huh?
That's
Yeah.
why you're the community information man.
But I never get. You get on the Wayne Norman show more than I do. I can't get on the show. I come to the door and they see my face and
Be
they
here.
lock the door.
Be here Tuesday at 7:30.
No,
I'll let you on with me.
No, I'll be listening. No, you don't want me
We'll
on.
force
with
Wayne into it.
you. No, you don't. You won't
You
have
can
enough.
talk about. We'll let you have
No.
2 minutes to talk about baseball.
He'll throw me out.
There you
He'll
go.
throw me out.
There you go.
I'll
He's the
throw
one-
you out. There's
There you go.
a card right here with you striking out on it.
He knows striking out. He knows enough. He knows enough about me. I have people that actually try to shut me down, and Wayne is one of them. So and I think he's smart to do that. It all depends. It all
What you're
depends.
saying?
Well, when he's trying to do a show with another guest, he doesn't want me mucking it up. But I'm glad that it's that time of year when Railroad Day is coming up. It's always around this time, right?
Since I'm growing older, I'm going to honor one of my brothers with a bad joke.
Okay.
Ed in Knoxville, this goes out to you. Well, which would you like? What kind of undergarments? Well, boxers, briefs, depends.
Oh,
I played off of Dennis's.
Oh,
words.
that is very good. Very, very good. And, you know,
Ho,
maybe
ho, ho.
Depends will actually sponsor us next
yuck,
time.
yuck, yuck.
Cool. Oh, rescued by Susan.
Okay, we're
There
back.
you go.
We're back on.
We
we're
always
back
want
on-
to sponsor.
on-
ILI says yes.
We're back on topic now. Okay, it's the 30. It's actually the 31st of October.
Yes.
It's a Saturday.
It's a Saturday of Labor Day weekend.
Of what?
And
no.
yeah,
What-
it's the end of summer.
what
Did
you-
I say October?
Yes, you
I
did.
said October.
Yes,
Now. It's
you did.
August. August
Please.
31st.
August 31st.
Thank you, please. Okay. Let's get
It's
to
the
the
Saturday of Labor Day weekend. See, my hearing's so bad I didn't hear Dennis's
If
ever.
Biden and Trump can do that, I can do it. Right?
You're not going to do that here.
Well, at least I corrected my error.
I thought we were leaving the orange hair and Uncle Chester.
I
out.
heard my own. I heard my own error, and I acknowledged it. It's August 31st. Folks.
I just said what, and you didn't
It's
really.
Thank you.
Today is Friday the 23rd. It's 8 days from today. Ray's come on a little early to get everybody
Charged up.
fired up
Yep.
about
And
Railroad Day.
had to fall in line with Dennis's availability on the show since his popular place.
Very popular.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
That's
popular.
right.
Yes.
That's right.
People
Ray,
love
Ray-
the show.
I ran into Ray at the polls on
Yeah.
the latest election day,
Oh,
and
good.
he comes over to me and said, "Hey, Dennis, when do you have an opening for me to talk about Railroad Day?" I said, "Oh my God, if we don't have one, Ray, we will make one." But we did find the date. And
Yeah.
today-
All of a
today-
sudden, we find it's the end of summer already. It's kind of unbelievable.
That's-
You know
the-
how
that's the
many
only
times
sad
I've
part.
heard that from people?
Well, it was too darn hot, and all of a sudden now it's cold. It's time to go back to school. And
Yeah,
stuff.
it got cold fast, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not cold usually.
No,
this
it's
early.
nice, but
Yeah.
it's just weird.
Well, I
Well, I should-
agree.
No, August 20, usually you can see a
flip.
bit of a change
But
in the
the-
weather
but-
and some cold and some trees start turning.
And I think it happened sooner
Yeah.
than this. I mean, it started right at the very beginning of August, really. It started to get really cool. Around the 8th or
Well,
so.
it's that time of the year for Railroad Day, and
Yeah,
you know,
we're
it was-
hoping for weather just like today on that day.
Oh, yeah, this
Well,
is an
so-
excellent
So
day.
that's the politicking job that Dennis has now.
He-
Wayne
he-
He has
Norman,
to talk with Mother Nature.
Yeah.
Wayne Norman will take care of that for you.
Oh, I
that's
thought
his
that's
job.
true.
He controls the weather.
the weather guy.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
He controls
Very
the weather
good.
unless it goes wrong. But
Yeah.
but I think if you talk to him next Tuesday, I'm sure he'll be able to let you
put
know.
it-
And by the way, the 10-day forecast, you can find it on the computer. And you know, it's not
Looks fairly decent.
good.
Okay,
That's
so one
good.
of the things I'd like to ask about the museum, I know you do so many things. What are some of the goals and objectives that you have coming up? You mentioned that you wanted to have a grant of some sort, but tell us a little bit about what's your future focus at this point.
We'd love to get a visitor center in, but there's a number of problems with that because by the way things function and regulations and stuff, you actually have to technically have a source of potable water before you can have fully serviceable non-potable water
Huh.
as a museum open to the public. So
Right.
we've got to do a water connection, we've got to do a sewer connection, etc. There's some issues around that. So in the meanwhile, we're on porta potty status. But that would be a nice thing. That's an ultimate goal. There is a sewer line that runs by there, but that is a sewer connector, not a thermal public, sewer line or something. I don't know the whole details of that.
Sure.
But I know that argument has come back and forth, probably from day one, a little bit. We'd always like more funding. Like any museum, whether it's Perkins Crandall House, Mark Twain House, Red Cross, us, the Textile Museum, you're always looking for funding. You're always looking for volunteers. And it does not have to be specifically railroad related. We need people to write grants. We need people to paint. We need people to come up with program ideas. We need people We need people.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
So one of the other questions that I have about the people that you need and the focus for the future is, do you go to other places that have railroad museums and talk to how they do things?
Probably a bit less in the last few years, but over the years there has been some meetings and coordination between the railroad museums in Connecticut to either share equipment or even rescue some pieces of equipment. Something went to Danbury and one piece came to us at the same time. There was another time the Trolley Museum in East Windsor wanted to get rid of some equipment they had from Cheney, and they talked to the different museums of who might take a couple of cars from there. And there's always different things. There's also, for cooperation, the way we get new ties that were new to us is actually a shared program with when Metro North does maintenance, Metro North or Amtrak do maintenance. If there are good ties that are left over from the passenger line, the freight railroads in Connecticut are first priority, Providence and Worcester, Housatonic, and New England Central. But then the museums are next. The Valley Railroad, I believe, is at the top of that list because they are also a facility run on DEP land at this time, or DEP, get that right.
Yep.
And, we're 7th or 8th on that list, but it has been of great help.
Would it be? I'm sorry.
No, I mean so track work is one area, and then, because we'd like to actually complete the Y around the back of the museum, and with the stub going out toward the bridge on the airline trail.
Yeah.
Where the museum right-of-way ends with the Grand Canyon, that is the connector up to Mackey's.
So would it help if all the railroad museum type people would maybe have like a get-together in the winter sometime and chatter about the spring and what you're going to do?
And they have. I mean, over the years, there have been different meetings, plus our group and the Sono Tower Museum, we're both chapters of the National Railway Historical Society, which also writes grants to museum groups. We've got grants from the Mass Bay Rail Club. We've got grants from the Amherst Rail Society. So, some of that already exists, but Susan could actually run with the idea of sponsoring a railroad museum license plate like Pennsylvania has.
Oh, I like that. And I'd like to also wonder if you would have a railroad day at the Capitol, maybe.
I don't know how you do that, but we can figure that out, I'm sure.
The people that you get together with for some of those, when everything's closed down and we're in session.
Have everybody come in and talk about it with a
and then
with
you put
a demo and a vision.
Yeah, have you been to when they go to the Capitol and they have like different groups?
Yeah, I was there at one point for $11.99, probably with CCAJ and I don't know, different stuff over the years. Sure.
So it would be something that I could put in for and maybe see if we get some space and work with you and the other museum groups and
have people walk through.
Have them walk through and talk about the rail.
We could do a Lego display of the Railroad Museum.
Plus, it's not far from where you have the train station right there. Just a hop, skip, and a jump over the train station
at Bradley
in Hartford.
Field, there was that wonderful Mark Twain house imitation made out of Legos. Did you see that?
No, I did not.
A few years ago?
No,
about 2 years before COVID,
I should travel more, yes.
Yeah. Then Dennis could play at the Railroad Museum more.
Yeah.
He's smiling at least.
I'm quiet now.
Oh, he's quiet?
Yeah. I'm enjoying the conversation between you two.
Thank you.
And I'm learning here.
But I'd love to put that together because I think the museum, I'm hoping, my hope for the museum and where we have them all throughout the country is that it inspires people to say, hey, we need to do more with the rail systems.
Yeah, well,
and one of the things here, we're being so isolated out here in Eastern Connecticut. If we were able to connect the rail to Hartford, connect the rail to Springfield,
if the Amtrak's new plan for the Northeast Corridor didn't go through under Yukon, it'd go on the old airline. But anyway, that's all different. Locational problem and logistics.
Well, we need to figure these things out. But it's going to be great for economic development in Eastern Connecticut if we can get a better rail service.
No doubt about it. It's good idea. And, we're here mostly. We talked about a lot of history, a lot of what's going on at the museum on a day-to-day basis. But we want to emphasize the fact that there is a special day coming up. Right, Ray?
So come to Railroad Day, Saturday the 31st of August, Connecticut Eastern Rail Museum, Bridge Street, Willimantic, Connecticut. We'll see you there. We got train rides and food, and Max sending us.
Will there be speakers?
If you come, you can speak.
No, I'm not.
Not really speakers.
No,
We're going to
people-
have the music, and we'll say a few thanks to the community and things.
Yeah.
I hate to
And
admit
go
it
from there.
publicly, but I'm not qualified to speak about the railroads.
Oh, yeah.
I'm talking about you.
But Susan is.
Thank you. I will
Yeah.
be there to speak. Thank you.
Okay. Anyway, it's been great having you, Ray. It's
All right, thank you.
the annual visit. It goes by too fast. Railroad Day coming up, August 31st.
And
Saturday.
you said about your sponsor, I stopped to leave a sign at Frank Motors. They wouldn't give me an oil change. They give me a check instead.
All right, very
So-
good. That's very
Very
nice.
So I'm going to
We
put
love
that
it.
out to you guys.
All right.
Okay.
Which means, would you like a sign for your lawn? Or not really?
Sure. We take
Sure,
a sign.
Susan will take a sign.
I love it. All right.
Well, I don't have
All right.
the base. So.
Okay.
All right. So
okay, is it, are we up? Are we done?
Yeah, 2 seconds.
Hey, Dennis O'Brien, Susan Johnson, Ray Axelrod, Matt. Okay, we'll be back next week with another great show. Thank you.